Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727. Another Tuesday night doing the Bald Show. Great to be here. Hope all of you guys are well. Sorry for the abrupt opening, but we're trying to going to be adding some new production to the broadcast soon. The reason we couldn't keep the old production is because we're dealing with some new rules with Clear Channel, since we are going to be airing this broadcast on iHeartRadio through the GFQ network. So there's a couple of issues that we had to deal with some copyright issues, because my other opening had some bits when I was on terrestrial radio. That was cool, but things have changed, so we're going to figure it out. 888-659-3727. If you're new to the broadcast, don't know who I am, why we're here, just to give you a little insight, this is the Hair Loss Show. I'm the author of a couple of well-known books on the prevention and treatment of hair loss. I'm also the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, and this is a place where you guys can, hang out, vent, talk about a subject, an issue that the vast majority of society does not allow us to talk about. It's a pretty simple broadcast. If you or if someone you know is dealing with hair loss, this is your safe place. We don't sell any products or services. We are here to guide you, again, in a safe direction when it comes to anything and everything hair loss. And we are here to provide you with a platform to talk about this issue that most men are going to deal with in their lifetime, but so many young guys are dealing with. Now, the biggest issue that I find in today's hair loss world or hair loss community is just the vast amounts of insane misinformation that anybody can find by doing a simple Google search online. If you look up hair loss treatments, hair loss forums, hair transplants, guys who don't know how to navigate through all this information are probably going to gravitate towards some of the ads that you're going to see. Maybe some of the more highly ranked sites, guys who are spending a tremendous amount of time, money, and effort to do their SEO so that they can get this, in some cases, misinformation or disinformation right in your faces. Unfortunately, a lot of people will kind of pass over the legitimate sites. When you look up hair loss or hair transplant forum or whatever in any major keyword, you're going to find one of our resources. You're going to find the American Hair Loss Association. You're going to find the Bald Truth. You're going to find the IHRS. These are all going to be in the top 10 searches in most places across the country and around the world. But most people are going to gravitate to the guy that's selling the ebook online who's cured his hair loss. Most people are going to gravitate to the treatment or the laser helmet or whatever that they think they can do. They can just kind of put down their credit card and buy this thing to help them solve their problem. That's usually going to be the first line of attack. And, it's unfortunate that the vast majority of hair loss sufferers will end up, or, those who are willing to or who want to treat their hair loss are going to end up being ripped off at least once. And in some cases, and a larger percentage of cases than we, really hope to believe, they're going to be disfigured. They're going to have at least one bad hair transplant unless they find the right resources first, or unless they kind of luck out and maybe stumble upon an ad that's promoting a decent physician and a good team who's doing, state-of-the-art surgical hair restoration. I was talking to a couple of guys in the internet broadcasting industry. I was actually talking to Andrew Zarian about this as well. And, One thing that they said, which is interesting, is that for some reason, I'm able to basically do the exact same show every week and be successful at it. And what I try to explain to them is, even though it's the same subject matter, even though it's the same topic, even though it's basically the same opening, it's never the same. Because there's so many new guys who are just finding this broadcast for the first time. And there's so many people out there who have, unfortunately, maybe ignored this broadcast. They've seen it. They've watched it a couple of times. They were like, who's this guy, Joe from Staten Island? And then they decided to buy something to help themselves instead of taking the time to listen. They kind of circle back. So when this other guy asked me, how do you get so much press? Do you have a PR agency working for you? Do you send out press releases? I said, I don't do anything. I just do what I do every week, and the word gets out there because people need this information. People want this information. And while it does seem to be a niche market in broadcasting, the truth is we're the largest niche, the largest demographic in all of broadcasting. Because 2/3 of you are dealing with hair loss by the age of 35. 2/3. I was emailed by a guy that I used to work with many years ago. I haven't seen this guy in 17 years. I didn't work closely with him, but he's in the publishing industry. A very nice guy. And when I met this guy, I had just been published. And I met this guy, he was older than me. He was probably about 36 at the time, and I was like 31. And he had a full head of hair. Beautiful head of hair. Now, he understood what we were doing, obviously, because the book was published and he was in publishing. And he understood the market for it to some degree, but he still didn't really seem to understand hair loss. And he kept asking me, he actually asked me once, where are you losing your hair? Can I see where you're losing your hair? He didn't really understand the whole miniaturization process and that it's a slow, torturous process for so many young guys that, the vast majority of people who meet them in person think they're crazy if they say that they're losing their hair. And I think that this guy kind of thought that. To try to make a long story short, this guy is like a Norwood 6 at this point. Now, obviously, he's chosen not to do anything about it, and he looks great. He's an older guy now, and he looks, he carries it well. But it just goes to show you that you never know when it's going to hit. That a guy who never expected to lose his hair, who I never expected to lose his hair because, I know the telltale signs. I see the beginnings of that process before people even see it themselves. Guy's completely bald now. So for people who don't understand it, initially, they usually end up understanding it. They usually end up circling back and finding this broadcast. And the truth is, some of the press that I've gotten over the years are from people who've stumbled upon me on the radio, freelance writers who may not have even been interested in it, that interested in hair loss at that time. And then they started to go through the process. And then they like, I'm going to write a piece on this and try to sell it to Men's Health or Men's Journal or to wherever. And I'm always in their memory banks. So for you internet broadcasters out there and, guys who are, starting out, getting into their businesses, trying to get some press, just do your thing. And in this world, in the hair loss world, you see a lot of companies, a lot of doctors, they have, they're paying $6,000 a month for PR. I guess it makes sense for them. But for me, it's about getting this broadcast out there because I know there's so many people who need our help. Let me give out the phone number. It's 888-659-3727. I am going to start making a new rule for the broadcast. Since I really don't have to do the show on a weekly basis. And at one point I chose not to. It's a little less stressful. I'm traveling a lot. Like I just got back into town today. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. And, so I'm decided to do a live broadcast. But it is a lot easier for me just to tape a broadcast, to book a guest, to do a taped interview or discussion, have it cut up into segments, and put it out there for public consumption. Live broadcast is a little more difficult to do. And, I want to keep it open for you guys so you guys can call in and talk to me about your issues. But if I notice that the calls are kind of slow, and then this is what I decided. I haven't even talked about this with Andrew. If I notice that the calls are kind of slow and they're kind of like just dripping in, I may end up just kind of closing shop for the night. Because I'm doing this for you guys. This is basically an open phone situation where you guys can call in and ask me anything about the industry, anything about your hair loss, share your experiences with others who really are in need of hearing the, especially positive experiences of young guys out there who are dealing with hair loss. Negative experiences are welcome as well. But if it's going to be me and Joe and maybe 2 or 3 other callers for 2 hours, I'm probably not going to do the show. Now, I actually got this idea from a very well-known broadcaster by the name of Tom Likas. And anyone on the West Coast knows who Tom Likas is. Tom was a terrestrial radio guy for many years, had a top #1 afternoon drive program here in Los Angeles and in other markets. And he is now doing an internet broadcast. He does shows 5 days a week. And his thing is, if he doesn't get calls, he goes off the air. And he tells his listeners that. It's a little different when you're on the radio. But when you're on the internet, a lot of guys, they want to communicate through other resources. They want to communicate through Twitter. They want to communicate through chat. They want to communicate through, our forum. They want to just send me emails, questions through the Ball Truth, which I don't even see for the most part. Sometimes, things are sent to me if it's something that my staff can't respond to. But this is your opportunity to really get inside the industry and also to kind of vent and talk about your situation to others and to maybe help other people. Young guys who are looking for similar stories to connect to so that they don't feel so alone. So I'm going to give out the phone number. It's 888-659-3727. I expect you guys to call in. If for some reason you do not, I'm just going to close up shop. That's 888-659-3727. And Joe, I know it's, I know you're calling in. That's great, and I appreciate that. And I know that a couple of other guys actually asked to call in later in the broadcast. But, let's take your calls for the first hour. 888-659-3727. I want to talk about a couple of things today. One thing is, I was speaking to, and I spoke to another doctor about this a few weeks ago. I wanted to speak to you guys and get your assessment, especially my regular listeners, of what you think is going on as far as the evolution of this field in surgical hair restoration. This is what I'm seeing. And I said this before. There's no doubt that FUE, follicular unit extraction, is taking that lead. And, in my view, obviously I'm a huge proponent of FUE, but the truth of the matter is, whether it's good or bad for the patient, I am seeing doctors who feel that they're pressured to kind of convert their practices over to FUE practices. Some are buying devices in order to accommodate this shift, and some have really taken the time to kind of become FUE experts themselves, learning how to do FUE by hand or using a motorized device, handheld device. There are doctors out there who I've spoken to, and this guy that I spoke to today, who is really converting a lot of his practice to an FUE practice. But he has had several hair transplants himself, and he recently had a hair transplant. I got to open my door. It's so hot in here. He recently had a hair transplant. And he chose to have, and this for his third hair transplant, he chose to have another strip. This is a guy that is doing like more than 50% now of his practice is FUE, and he's really good at it. And he's doing it himself, obviously with the help of his techs, but he's scoring the grafts. He's extracting the grafts. He's doing some of the placement. He's doing all of the extraction sites. He's using a 0.08 millimeter punch, tiny, tiny punches, and a 0.9. But he chose to have, not for his first, this is not talking about his first hair transplant, his third hair transplant recently, he decided to have another strip. There's so many doctors out there who, really understand the nuances of this technique and understand the reality of FUE as far as being able to move a lot of grafts over several sessions. And these guys are deciding not to do it themselves. Now, it's not that they believe that FUE is harming anybody. Obviously, it's not. These guys are thrilled. They have relatively, especially when using such small instruments, scars are minimal, in some cases invisible. There was a video posted on Bald Truth Talk today by Dr. Mark Dower. He's a guy that is actually using very small handheld, he's using the SAFE system, but he's using a very small punch. And his results are incredible. The person on the video is ecstatic after having 1,500 grafts. Said just in a few days or in 2 weeks' time, he can see that there's no mark left on his head, no scars, at least at this point. What's going to happen in the long run? What's going to happen after the second pass or the third pass? Will he feel the same? Will he still have the ability to shave his head? And will he still have the ability to move all of his donor-resistant, his DHT-resistant hair? The truth of the matter is, the answer is no matter what math is being done. And let me be clear about this. The vast majority, I would say 99% now of IHRS members are offering FUE in their practices. I'm sweating. And most of them, at least 50% of their practice is FUE. And a vast, big percentage of the guys in the IHRS are converting completely over to FUE. So FUE is here to stay. It is winning the game. But is that really something that's great for all patients? The truth is, the answer is no matter what's being said online. And again, I'm not a staunch strip advocate. I brought FUE to the forefront of the U.S. and the world. I introduced it to these guys after Ray Woods introduced it to me. And I really pushed them to start utilizing it in their practices to change this field. But I always believed that it would be used as an adjunct or as a replacement for some patients. I really had no idea that things would evolve the way that they have. 888-659-3727. Let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? And where are you calling from?
Hi, Spencer. This is David, Artista.
Oh, hey, man. What's happening, Artista? Nice to hear from you.
Not too much. Hello, everybody. I'm here in Chicago, of course, Chicago area.
Well, let me ask you, man. You are a guy who is, you've been thinking about a surgical hair restoration for a long time. You're obviously leaning towards, you're going to be getting something done with Dr. Carlos Wesley. At least you're going to be in one of his trials. But, what do you think about the evolution of the field? You've kind of been around for a few years, not that long as far as, I don't know. How long have you been on the forums?
Oh, quite a while now. Since 2010, I believe.
Okay. Well, I mean, in the scheme of things, that's 4 years. But in the scheme of things, that's kind of a very short period of time. So when you kind of came in, you were seeing the crazy battles about, anti-FUT and all the FUE guys and the guys that were, battling about procedures that were claiming hair follicle regeneration and things of that nature.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you came in around that time. So,
Yeah, I did.
so I don't know if you have a bias or if you've actually seen, I mean, because you're a pretty sharp guy, so you kind of, I'm sure you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. The truth of the matter is,
Yeah.
there's only so much hair that can be moved in your lifetime, and if you don't
Right.
utilize 100% of that DHT resistant hair, you can never have, especially if you progress to a Norwood 6 or Norwood 7, you really can never have enough hair at this point to be moved to give you to give most young guys the head of hair that they would have hoped for.
Yeah. Right.
And that's just the sad reality of things until things change, until we're multiplying hair follicles. So my whole argument is, listen, I love the fact that FUE is in the forefront. I love the fact that everybody is offering it in their practice now. But I think that some young guys, not all of them, are making the mistake in believing that FUE is the only procedure for them, and that if anyone who's doing FUT or anyone who decides to do FUT is making a huge mistake. So, I mean, that's what are your thoughts on that, dude?
Yeah. Well, it all has to do with being online, right? The internet. I don't know what to say about that.
Well, it is
So
about.
it's individualistic. It really depends on the person, right?
That's right.
Maybe some people would have to go with a strip surgery, and other people can go with the FUEs, depending, on their genetic makeup, of course.
Well, and that's part of it. But listen, I mean, and this is inside information. I speak to doctors who are offering FUA. There's a guy in New York who's, I mean, he is the king of FUT and one of the kings of FUE. He's kind of gone all robotic. He's offering it to his patients. He's getting, I mean, his practice is huge. I mean, they're banging down his door because he's offering FUE
Right.
and he's offering the robotic system. But the truth of the matter is, since the beginning, he has told me that he believes that in his hands, and he's performed thousands of procedures, for the right patient, who is the perfect candidate, FUE is the way to go, and even in the long term. But for most patients, to have the best possible outcome, they need a combination of FUE and FUT. And that's just the reality of the situation. And this other guy that I was talking about, he does now mostly FUE. That's it. This is what he's marketing. This is what he's advertising, outside of the online world. These are the patients that he's seeing, young guys. He's offering FUE. He's doing it by hand with a motorized device, very small punches, beautiful, clean work.
Mm-hmm.
He chooses to get a strip for himself. What does that say to you?
I don't know what to make of it.
Well, I mean, what it says to me is that FET is still incredibly relevant, and the fact that people are kind of throwing it out because they're so concerned about the scar. And I'm not saying that a young guy should go out and get an FET and have a scar on the back of their head.
Right.
But I'm saying to look at it as an archaic procedure is really being narrow-minded, and people who are writing about this, posting about this, complaining about this, trying to take a stand against FUT, sadly they're going to be doing more harm than good because there's so many people who will benefit in a much greater way, especially older guys,
Right.
if they have FUT or a combination of FUT and FUE, and they just kind of throw that away, make it sound like it's archaic. It's disappointing, and it's actually, in the end, it could cause people a lot of harm.
And of course, with an FUT, it all depends on, and FUEs, it depends on the doctor you go to, too, the artistic talents that they have.
Well, it depends on the doctor that you go to. It depends on your genetic makeup, and also some of it depends on luck, sadly. You can go to the best doctor. Look, you look at guys like Hassan and Wong. They have not converted their practice to an FUE practice. They are staunch believers of what they do, and they are some of the best at what they do in the world.
Right.
People travel the world over to get FUT by Victor Hassan and Jerry Wong. But there are still
True.
people out there who will say that these guys are harming people because they're, putting scars on people's heads. So, I mean, what do people say to that? I think that these options should be left available for people so that they can understand what their options are, and they understand that they
Yeah.
have options. There's not none of this is one size fits all. And now what's happening,
Right.
Artista, is everyone is starting to convert over to these, to the NeoGraft and to the Artist system.
Right.
And, in the end, these devices are getting in the wrong hands, and it's going to, this trend is growing. So this is what I'm worried about. So when I see people who are still writing about FUT butchers and all this stuff, most of these guys have no idea what they're talking about. And some of these guys, sadly, they have been butchered. So I understand where they're coming from. If you've been damaged, like Joe from Staten Island or Johnny Ohio, or the countless walking wounded out there that have, that went to large chain clinics or were just misled somehow or just weren't candidates for the procedure. I understand why they would, get those pitchforks and kind of, try to get the word out there. But in general, I think it's a bad idea to demonize any specific procedure. Everyone should kind of have an open mind. I'm sorry. I'm going to let you talk.
No, I completely agree with you. Completely. It really depends on the person. It depends on the doctor you're going to. It sounds, the combination of having an FUT and then later FUEs is not a bad idea either.
Well, you are how old now?
I'm going to be 56 this year.
All right. So you're 56 years old. In today's world, that's relatively young, and the fact that I'm 49 now, I'm realizing how young 56 actually is. So, I mean, you still have a lot of life ahead of you, hopefully, and you are in a position now where you're making a decision. Where are you going to go? Now, I know that you're obviously gravitating towards FUE, which for you makes sense. You have relatively limited hair loss compared to. I mean, you're what, a Norwood 4? 5?
Well, it's 5. I would think, yeah.
Okay, so you still have a decent amount of hair, and to take a chance and have a few passes with good FUE, especially since you've been losing your hair for a while and you're kind of used to the way that you look. I mean, you can benefit a great deal from that, and you may not have to deal with having a strip scar. So in your particular case, it's probably a decent idea to give FUE a try first.
Well, as you know, I almost went ahead and chose a doctor, and then Dr. Wesley came along with his this new technique that he showed us, and thank God he included me in on the phase testing, which will be sometime. I don't know. He told me late summer, late spring, early summer. I think it's going to be a little later than that.
Well,
I know he's a pretty busy guy.
Well, he is busy, but you also know that he's slowly and methodically working on this treatment, hoping to improve the device and make it, get it to a point where he's actually going to be able to offer it to patients as an actual procedure. But that could take another 2 years. That could take another 3 years. I see.
Well,
go ahead.
Mm-hmm. He's updating the instrumentation. He's still going through that process.
Right. So, okay. So by the time the instrumentation is updated, gets cleared by the FDA, which is what he wants, and is able to be, and he's able to actually utilize it in practice on a regular basis and start to grow the number of grafts that he's moving, that could take 3 years. I mean, who knows how long it's going to take? So I know there are guys out there. There are guys out there that are also putting their lives on hold for this procedure. I believe in this procedure. I think it's a great procedure from what I've seen, and I think that it can be a game changer. It can definitely be a game changer. You and I know that, but is it going to make that much of a difference in people's lives at this point? To wait instead of getting either a traditional FUT or a good FUE now and kind of start the process, and then they can go back and get Dr. Wesley's procedure if and when it comes to fruition.
Right. The young guys can go with something minimal, right now. Some kind of hair transplant, just something minimal to get them, you know what I mean?
Well, also to kind of bridge the gap, to kind of start them along in their life. There are guys out there who are putting their lives on hold because of their hair loss. And they think, okay, once I get this back, once I frame my face, once I feel comfortable looking at myself in the mirror, I'm going to have a better life. The truth is, maybe you will have a better life, but you can kind of start having a better life now. And you also don't have to wait to get that hair. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm
Right.
seeing so much more of that. Now, I don't think people should jump into surgery by any means. But if you
No.
cannot seem to grapple with your hair loss and the way you look, and there's a way to help yourself, then you should take advantage of it and give it a shot.
Exactly. I agree with you 100% on that.
Well,
And Joe, you should be listening to what Spencer just said, Joe.
I think, speaking of Joe, I think Joe's gotten a lot better. And I'm hoping that
Yeah.
I'm hoping that sticks. I really am. So is there anything that you want to add before I take another call?
No, there's really not a whole lot. I do believe that it's going to be revolutionary what Dr. Wesley finally comes up with. Well, you've seen the same things that I've seen. We can't talk about it all. We have, can't really talk about all of it. But
I don't disagree with you. I've said that. I said that, if it works the way that he's explained it to us and the way that he showed me and you, then it can certainly be a game changer. It can be revolutionary. But with that said, is it going to get to the point where he's going to be able to move a significant amount of hair in a single pass? And, is there going to be any peripheral damage, from, to adjacent grafts by using this technique? These are things that we just don't know yet. At this point, it doesn't seem to be the case. But once he starts to move more than 50 grafts at a time, once he's moving 100, 200, 500, 1,500, in order to do that in an expeditious way and to be able to, make the patient comfortable, he has to kind of up his speed. And once that speed is kind of enhanced, what's going to be the outcome? Are the grafts going to be as perfect as they are when he's doing it in a relatively small area? These are all things that he's going to have to test.
Yeah, based on what you're saying, I don't think you've seen the update, have you?
I don't know. I don't know when the last time he showed your video. He did show me the speed test.
Is that about 2 months ago? That might have been the same thing I saw.
Yeah. He showed me the speed test, and it's pretty impressive. However, we don't know what possible adjacent damage. I have to play devil's advocate. We don't know if it's going to be more difficult to remove grafts in the future. If there's going to be like more fibrotic tissue, even though it's coming from underneath. If it's going to be more difficult to move grafts in the next pass, if he removes a large number of grafts. These are all things that need to be tested, and it's going to take him a long time to make that happen. I just think that patients need to know that.
That's true. Yeah, you have to be pretty objective about it.
Absolutely.
And you are. Yeah.
Well, I am. Listen, like I said, I've said it on the air. I think it's going to be a game changer if it works. If it works consistently, it'll change the playing field forever. Now, doctors, even in my organization, they were pissed off at me for saying that, but it's the truth. This is what at least that's what I believe. And it's not that they're pissed off because they don't want to perform this type of procedure, because this is going to be given to everybody to use this device. And, all these guys who are already skilled are going to be able to make this happen. But there's a lot of guys who just don't believe it's going to kind of stand the test of time, because there's a lot more involved in moving a lot of hair and making a huge aesthetic change in someone than just, getting a few hundred grafts out without any transection.
We all have to be realistic, and as you said, we can't put our lives on hold. We can't.
Yeah. Well,
you cannot.
No, you can't, and sadly, a lot of guys do. Listen, man, I appreciate the call as always. And before we take another call, anything you want to add?
No, that's about it. What would you think about? What was I going to ask you about the Desmond thing? What would you think about that overall?
Oh, you mean about, for those who don't know what Artista is talking about, there's a forum member on Bald Truth Talk who is basically did some crowdfunding to send this guy, calls himself Desmond online, to Korea to check out the latest hair conference which is pretty exciting. All the major scientists in the hair world get together and they talk about their discoveries and their research, and they present these discoveries to their colleagues and to their peers. This guy went there. He taped several of the talks, spoke to some of the experts in the field and some of the major researchers, and all of that information is now presented on baldtruthtalk.com. My thoughts are this.
Wow.
I think it's amazing that these guys got together, raised this money, and sent this cat to Korea. And I think that so far what this guy Desmond has presented has been wonderful. I think Desmond is a very positive figure in the forum world and on Bald Truth Talk. I personally never thought that it was going to get people the information that they really were hoping for, but I think it does give them enough, current data to realize, you know what, stuff's not going to happen overnight. And people, while, it's exciting, some of the stuff that's happening, people need to be patient and realize that any treatments that come from this research, any effective treatments, any treatments that are going to come to the marketplace could take many, many years. They are currently still in the research phases of all these different, different processes and technology. So, but I think it was a job well done, and I think Desmond did a terrific job. And there's a couple of guys. I guess I should know who they are, but I don't really follow the forum like I should. But there were some major players on our forum, some members who really helped to beat that drum and lead the charge, and I appreciate that.
I think Hellhauser, I think is his name. He was one of the guys.
I think it's Hello User, right? Hello User? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hellhauser.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think he was paramount in the effort, and I think the guys did a great job. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we were able to provide that platform so these guys can get this thing done.
Didn't it show that there are a lot more? There are a lot more of. There's a lot more companies out there investigating the possibility of hair treatments, upcoming hair treatments.
I think that's a good point. It did illustrate to the masses how many companies and how many researchers are working on this.
Right.
It also illustrated how far away we are from an actual, from these type of technologies becoming effective treatments. But I still think it's exciting to see how many companies, how many scientists, how many research teams are working on this cure, on a cure for hair loss. Eventually, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if you don't focus on it, you live your life. You live your life. A treatment will sneak up on you.
And that's well said. That's exactly. What do you think they're going to find it on? The guys on Bald Truth Talk are going to expedite this process. Listen, I am an open-minded guy, and I'm a true believer in the power of moving mountains, making things happen. But I can tell you this, and this is not to be a pessimist because I am not. I'm an optimist.
Me too.
All the effort that's being put, it's great to get this information, but it will not expedite a cure. It just won't.
No.
These guys are going to be working at their own pace. They see your excitement, and that's great. And they may pander to that excitement in some cases, just to promote their own efforts. But it's not going to expedite the cure. Artista, man, I really appreciate the call, and I'm glad you're doing well.
It was good to talk to you, and goodbye to everybody. And Joe, have a good call-in.
All right, man. Take it easy. Thanks for the call.
All right, Spence, take care.
All right. 888-659-3727. Who's this? You're on the air. Where are you calling from?
Yes, hi. I'm sorry I went earlier tonight, but the fact is you're not on the computer. You're frozen, and I can't hear what's going on. And I knew Dave was calling in.
That has to be
apologize.
That has to be your computer because I'm looking at the feed right here, and it's moving very fluidly. So
I apologize for being a little bit early tonight, Spencer, if you don't mind.
All right, so let's take care of this now. How are you, by the way?
Well, physically, I'm much better. I'd say I'm 80% approved. I've suffered 2 months ago the injury. I'd say I'm 80% better. I appreciate your asking.
Well, I'm glad you're better.
Not like some other people whose names I'd rather not mention who don't give a damn.
Joe from Staten Island.
Excuse me.
Would you like to may reiterate it? Have you heard it? Excuse me.
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, man, it's always a pleasure, and I'm glad you're doing better physically. So tell me what's happening emotionally.
Well, emotionally, my body becomes physically better, emotionally I deteriorate because I'm able to kind of go. The distraction of being in pain no longer exists, so I will go back to my emotional pain from this disease. You understand?
Yeah.
Here we are. Here we go again.
Well, listen, I get that. Sometimes things happen in our lives, and we're like, you know what? We're so lucky. We're lucky to be alive. Why were we even worried about all this bullshit before? But that can be fleeting. I understand that. Listen, a good friend of mine, he's going through a battle with cancer, and he's a guy that I've known for many, many years. And I think to myself, holy shit, I mean, this guy is so strong. He's doing what he needs to do to take care of himself, take care of his family, and he's going to be fine. He's actually, he's coming through this with flying colors. Thank God. But I think about what he has to go through every single day. He's got a family to support. He's got all these things on his mind, and now he's facing, the possibility, even though the prognosis is pretty great for the type of cancer he has, and because of the type of cancer he has, it's still something that he never thought he would have to deal with. It just hit him out of the blue. And I think to myself, how lucky we all are. All the guys that are listening to this program who are not dealing with a major illness like that. No matter what you say, Joe, until it happens to you, you don't know. And all these guys, there are guys out there who are probably completely, and this guy's a sufferer, by the way, who are completely, taken aback by their hair loss initially and whose lives have been greatly affected. And then they are diagnosed with a disease, a life-threatening disease, and it puts things into perspective. You, unfortunately, you almost died. You could have died from your injuries.
Yes, I could have.
Especially since you were on Coumadin or warfarin or whatever you're taking. And
FEI, blood thinner.
Yeah, and for a short period of time, you were like, all right, I understand. I see what Kobren's saying. I need to appreciate what I have. I have two wonderful children. I have a wife that, I may or may not get along with all the time.
Don't get along with all the time.
Right. You have a house. You have a great pension. You don't ever have to worry about a dime for the rest of your life. I mean, you're in a pretty good position, Joe.
And I'm a quasi-star.
You're a quasi-celebrity?
But most of all, I have a great friend like you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but there's a lot. You have a lot more than us, Joe, and than me. You have a family. Think about your kids.
Well, I spoke to my great friend Dave Artista today for almost 2 hours on the phone.
You're kidding me. How did that go?
Well, we were planning. I have to castigate Dave publicly now. Because we were planning a three-way call. That's why I was on hold earlier. Because the plan was to have a three-way conversation and discuss about certain things. I'll get to it in a few minutes.
All right. Well, let's talk about what the news and talk about more hair loss stuff.
Well, yeah, of course. Okay, of course. But get back to one more thing you said about that you're considering canceling the program because you don't have that many callers. Well, I have a solution for that. Make me and Dave your regular callers. And Bald Jerry, people like that, and you'll have a whole show filled up.
Bald Jerry could always call in when he wants. You're always welcome.
Friend of mine also.
You're always welcome to call in. Dave is always welcome to call in. But the point of this broadcast is to, the live broadcast is to give people the opportunity to speak with me directly, to give people the opportunity to ask questions about the industry, about things that they would never, they're not going to get this stuff on a message form. They're not going to get the stuff in the chat. I don't spend time. I'm not typing back and forth in the chat when I'm doing a show. Okay, and frankly, I wouldn't even have the chat if it wasn't for Andrew Zarian. The fact that he syndicates the show, I would. If this was my gig completely, if he didn't syndicate the show, the chat would be cut off. There would be no chat room. It's distracting. There's a lot. There could be sometimes there'd be a lot of ugliness in the chat. You know, there's a lot. There's people trolling the chat. I think that before there was a chat, frankly, when I was on the radio, it was it was easier to do the show. And it was call after call after call after call. Now, what I find interesting is there's a couple of times when the chat was down and all the lights are lit again on the phone. And what happens is I get people, they tweet or they're tweeting Andrew or they're contacting Andrew. And then Andrew is Skyping me saying somebody has a question. That's all great. And that's the way guys online like to communicate now. And if I opened up a Skype line, I can guarantee you that they'd be calling me through Skype. But you know what? This is a toll-free number. Pick up the phone, and this is the problem. A lot of people, they're concerned that I'm going to have their phone number. You know, we're developing into an extremely paranoid culture now, especially the online culture. I want people to hear your voices. I want people to learn from your stories and from your experience. And Joe, you've told your story a million times, and I appreciate it. And it's great that you're calling in to give us the news. That's what I want to hear, and that's what people who are tuning into the broadcast want to hear. But
all right, let me get the news.
Yeah, but honestly, if the trend isn't, if we're not getting more phone calls, and I decide that I don't want to talk anymore, I'm just going to stop doing the show that night. I'll do it the next week, and maybe that week we'll get more calls. And it's funny. I learned this trick from Tom Likas, and Tom, he'll get off the air. This is a guy who has millions of listeners online. He's actually one of the most listened to internet broadcasts in the world right now. And he'll say he gets 2 phone calls. And he's very, as he would say, and this is the way I feel, I'm not going to vamp. I'm not going to vamp it up and just keep talking if I'm not getting calls. There's no point. I don't need to be here. This doesn't help my bottom line. I do this for you guys.
Well, I understand, Spencer, and I have to agree with anything you say. It is your program. You have a right to run it any way you want. All I could do is call when the opportunity arises.
Well, and I always appreciate your call, Joe. So listen, let the listeners know what's going on.
I first of all, like you made a point. Effective hair loss treatment is many years away, but in my expert opinion, that's not necessarily the case because by Malapros. We'll be in phase 2B. Will be over the next 4 months, and then we'll have an answer as to whether they're going to phase 3, which will be 6 to 12 months, due to the fact that Malapros is already an FDA-approved drug, as you know.
That is true, and again, that's possibly it's going to be a very effective treatment. I think it's going to be a great treatment, especially for those guys who are too shit scared to take Propecia. And Suncash, you may have to edit that out. I'm not sure. And it could be a great bridge treatment, to bridge that gap until other treatments come to fruition. But I can tell you this, I don't think it's going to be a miracle. I do not think it's going to be a miracle, Joe. Do you?
No, I'm not saying it is. How effective it is, I have no idea. What it'll do, I have no idea. I'm not as gifted as some of these people on the message forums. As you know, they know ahead of time exactly what something will do. And I'm being so very sarcastic when I say that.
Yeah. Well,
it can grow a moderate amount of hair, minimal amount of hair, or a major amount of hair. I don't know.
Well, that's true.
I know what it does for eyelashes.
Well, it actually does an incredible job for eyelashes and for eyebrows. It's being actually used off-label for eyebrows, and a lot of people who have diminished eyebrows, even if they have diminished eyebrows their entire life, if there's some follicle, if there's some growth there, those eyebrow hairs can become more robust and darker. And I've seen some significant changes. Artista, if you want to call back, you can. Feel free if you want to kind of do a 3-way and you want to talk to
my dear friend.
If you want to talk to Joe, I'll take the call for a few minutes before I go to break. I'm going to go to break in about 9 minutes. So feel free to call in. 888-659-3727. Artista, feel free to call in, and I'll put you on the air.
All right. So first about Malapros,
Yeah.
All right. Studies have definitely shown that the receptors in the eyebrows and eyelashes are exactly the same as those in the scalp.
Yeah.
Several scientists have demonstrated that, which to me, 4 plus 4 definitely equals 8.
Well, and I would say that makes sense in most cases, and that is absolutely compelling information. However, you have to realize that the lifespan or the life cycle of eyelashes and eyebrows are much shorter than the life cycle or the lifespan of a scalp hair follicle. So, inducing that growth and keeping that hair in an anagen phase for a longer period of time would seem to be relatively easy. I guess it should be easier when it comes to eyelashes and eyebrows. And when you see a more robust, even if it's just by tenths of a millimeter, more robust growth and darker color to those hairs, it makes such a cosmetic difference compared to what it would if it's just that type of small improvement with scalp hair. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you could have vast improvement with very little results, meaning that you have a little bit more plumping of the lashes, a little darker color of the lashes or the eyebrows, it makes a tremendous aesthetic difference. Will that translate to scalp hair? We don't know yet.
But if you could, I'm not trying to contradict you.
I don't mind if you contradict me. You know what? If you have a good point, to make, I want to hear it. I have no problem saying I'm wrong.
Even if as you know, even the baldest man who's been bald for 50, 60 years has vellus hairs.
Right.
If you could elongate those vellus hairs 300 to 400%, you'll make a significant cosmetic difference on a bald man. Am I correct in that observation?
300 to 400%. I would say, yeah. Well, let's see, 100%. So that's double, triple, quadruple. Yes, you would. If it actually takes on a much longer life cycle, for sure.
If I don't know, I'm not a scientist. I'm not privy to inside information like these so-called experts on the message forums. I have no idea what Allergen knows. They know. David Picott knows, but I don't know. I have no idea.
All right.
All I'm stating the fact is, within 4 months, we'll know exactly what Bimatoprost does or does not do.
Right.
That is a fact.
Well, I think that's exciting for everybody. I'm going to pot up Dave Artista.
Thank God he's dead.
And you guys can speak together on this issue and talk about whatever else you want to talk about. Is this Dave?
Yeah, this is me.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Dave. Well, some of the stuff we spoke about today, Spencer, unfortunately, is not fit for your new protocol.
No, we definitely want to keep it to the hair issue.
Yes, of course. Me and Dave ad nauseum. We're discussing Dr. Costarales, and I, as you know, I dissected the YouTube video at least 10 times.
Yeah.
And I was, he made a lot of good points. I'll give Dave a floor in a second. The most important point that Dr. Costarales made, in my expert opinion, was that Latranopus, which we know is, guess what? Bimatoprost,
right,
which is Latisse, is a major PGD2 inhibitor. And with his expert opinion, you inhibit PGD2 to a significant degree, then you grow a significant amount of hairs. That's what I found the most exciting part of his presentation. Dave, here you go.
Well, we just don't know all the specifics and what they're going through right now. Right?
Dave? Joe?
Hello. Joe?
Who are you addressing? Me or Spencer, Dave?
I'm letting you guys talk back and forth. You guys have your conversation.
Oh. All right. Have your wine, Spencer.
Joe, it's like I said before, we just don't know all the specifics. We don't know all the inside details to what they're going through at this point. So it's really hard to make a determination on what is and what is not. Right, Spence?
Go to some of the message forums. These guys know. Nah, I mean that facetiously, as you know.
Look, the truth is nobody knows. Look, I think one of the biggest surprises of the video was the fact that everyone discovered that Costarales is actually dealing with male pattern baldness. You never see the front. You never see. You only see him when, especially when he's through the mainstream media. You never really get a shot of the top of his head.
Right.
So I think,
noticed that too. Right.
So I think everyone realized that, and I actually was aware of that, but I think everyone realized that this guy's a sufferer as well. He's got a little skin in the game, so to speak. No pun intended.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I noticed that when I was watching the video. I didn't know. I had no idea that he had his crown is balding. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show you just how prevalent this thing is. Even people that you wouldn't realize, guys, actors, people who you see face forward, news anchors, all these guys that you think have incredible heads of hair, or a larger percentage than most people realize, they're actually losing their hair to some degree.
Yeah.
A lot of anchor guys, guys that I know here in Los Angeles. I'm not going to mention any names. Guys who I've seen at the local bar. Some of these guys, a couple of well-known anchors actually live in my area. I mean,
and here in Chicago too.
Yeah, I mean, they're painting their heads just like me. Just like me.
Either that, or they give the cameraman specific orders not to shoot them from the rear.
Yeah, but they're also they have to paint their heads, otherwise the lights. Basically they have hair lights. Okay. I have hair lights too. So if you see me, there's a light almost directly over my head, which illuminates my hair. Without that, everything kind of looks flat on screen. So you need that light to illuminate your hair and your shoulders. If you don't paint your bald spot and you have that light, people are going to see it. That's just the way that it is.
That's true. Let me get to one more major piece of the news, and then we have obviously have to go. Well, you have other callers, which me and Dave were discussing ad nauseum today on the phone.
Yeah,
about Replicel. Replicel is going to surprise a lot of people, and me and Dave's expert opinions. Due to the fact that, Shishido Corporation, which is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in Japan, has injected significant amounts of money into Replicel. And in addition to that, in Kobe, Japan, they've set up a hair loss research center dedicated to stem cell therapy. But let me just finish with this, please, before Dave goes. The Japanese, which is most exciting about this, Replicel is about to enter phase 2, is that the Japanese government has severely restricted their limitations on stem cells, how they can be used, which means that Replicel's release can be dramatically come to fruition within a couple years in Japan.
Yeah, they are definitely, they're making it easier for this technology to come to fruition. They make it easier for these companies to work with this technology. So yeah, absolutely. It is exciting. Yeah. And I think that the people that have been kind of poo-pooing Replicel, and the guys, a couple of years ago when they came out with their findings, and everyone was so disappointed and said, it's the end of Replicel, it doesn't work, I mean,
I remember that. Yeah.
I remember when the company, they contacted me, and they're very cordial. These are really good people. And they were like, I mean, they didn't even know how to react. They at one point they didn't want to give. They thought that it may be better not to provide us with any inside information or any more video interviews because of what transpires online. And I think that's what is most discouraging about the online community, is that we can. I would be able to bring them a lot more. And I've actually kind of stopped pushing the issue with these companies because every time that I do, there's some sort of bullshit that goes on. All of a sudden, these guys are called con men, and these guys are just in it for the money. And these guys, they don't need to present this to the message forums. They were doing everybody a favor. It was a privilege. They did it basically for me. They said, all right, this is a legitimate entity. We will absolutely present this through the Bald Truth. It would be, great to get this information out to the public, to give people a little bit of information so that maybe they have some hope. But no one was making any promises. And all of a sudden, because they didn't come through in that year or whatever it is, or these anonymous guys on a message forum thought that the results weren't what they believed them to be, they're calling these companies, scumbags. They're saying that they're trying to rip people off, that it's junk science. It's amazing. Look what they did with histogen.
Right.
You know, it's actually really sad. You know, we are in a position to get this information out to the public faster. You know, frankly, I mean, you guys didn't have to send Desmond, it's great that you did, out to these companies, out to this conference. All that information could be funneled through the Bald Truth through me. And these guys would be more open if this stuff didn't happen.
Right.
Joe?
I mean, Mr. David Hall is a real Class A gentleman. I mean, I've seen him on several. He's a highly intelligent man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he is. He understands.
Sorry.
Listen, but he understands it. In truth, he doesn't hide the fact that, you know, he's a businessman. He's in it for the bottom line. But you know what? That's what motivates our world.
Right.
He wants to make money from this, and he wants to help people in the process.
Of
And he
course.
says he wants to make money, but he also wants to help people.
Right.
He's
I
honest.
couldn't understand the criticism he was getting a couple of years ago. I really couldn't understand that at all.
I just said, listen, man. You know what? You don't have to put yourself out to scrutiny up for scrutiny like that. Don't even worry about it. You know, we have spoken since, and I did one interview with him that we decided not to put out there for public consumption. I spoke to him about it at great length, and frankly, I said, you know what? It's possible you guys are going to get even more shit for this. Is it worth it? You know, and I kind of put the kibosh on that one because honestly, I don't think it's worth it. I think it takes away the focus of what this company is trying to accomplish, and there's no reason to have to respond to what these people are saying on the message forums. You know, and what about these guys who are, there was a guy I read it briefly and I even forgot who it was, to be honest with you. I read one post, but then I saw there was one guy asking like question after question after question to this guy. I think it was a guy on Yehuda's team that came onto the message forum. And they're just bombarding this poor guy with questions. And the guy was willing to, took some time to answer some questions. And nothing's good enough. Nothing's good enough for these guys. They want the answer now. They can't live without this specific question answered right now. And then if they don't get the right answer, all hell breaks loose in the forums.
Well, as you know, there's been a nuclear war on the forums since Dr. Costas allegedly made a statement to Desmond that all he needs is $2 to $20 million to cure hair loss, and then it'd be done right away.
You know what? I don't know.
He's an uproar.
You know, I don't know if he was just kind of goofing around to see what would happen on the message forums, because you know these guys read the forums. All of these guys read the forums.
He got some reaction.
Yeah, so he may have been goofing around. It's possible Desmond misunderstood him. It doesn't really make any sense because the truth is, and I said this on our last broadcast or the broadcast before, if it was only $2 million, you don't think they would call me up, or you don't think they would call somebody else up in the industry, or one of the more successful hair transplant surgeons and say, listen, get a couple of your buddies together. You know, you guys could be the major investors, and, let's make this happen. It's only $2 million. You know, any transplant surgeon worth their salt can get that money together. And then especially if he had the opportunity to have the lion's share of a product that is supposedly going to be more effective than finasteride and minoxidil. It's a no-brainer. It doesn't make any sense.
No, he's keeping the cards close to his chest. He's not going to, give out pertinent information. He's not going to do that.
Of course not.
I don't blame him.
I think he was just throwing it out there. I mean, he's probably looking at this guy saying, I don't know. Believe me, I don't know what Desmond looks like. I don't know if his name is Desmond. I don't know. He could be a woman for all I know. I have no idea who this person is.
We starting that stuff again now, sir?
But the truth is, and it's nothing against Desmond. I don't know who this person is. But the truth is, he's probably looking at this person sitting there with a video camera, saying that he's representing a message forum, full of balding guys on the internet. He's thinking to himself, I got to somehow get my way out, get myself out of this. He's not going to divulge anything that's any critical information. Makes absolutely no sense.
As I understand it, he didn't want to be interviewed in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Based on what Desmond said.
Right.
He finally talked him into sitting down with him. So he just wanted to get it done. That's all. Can we talk about talk about finasteride real quick?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. I've been on it for over 10 months now. I talked to Joe about this today.
First of all, I can't believe how time flies. I remember you coming on the air saying that you were good. First, you were afraid, you weren't sure if you were going to try it, and then you decided to try it, and you were relieved that you had no adverse side effects, and then I know that you had some success. 10 months later, what's going on?
I'll tell you, I started using these products like Kabuki and Topics.
Yeah.
I hadn't used them in a long time because prior to using finasteride, it was a waste of time. I was just putting fibers on the bald scalp, right?
Right.
But now I've got enough density on my scalp where using Kabuki and or Topics and Dermatch, it's attaching to hair. It's not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Listen, that. First of all, it's amazing. I don't think people understand how life-altering that can be, especially if you're willing to wear a cosmetic. Because if you have enough hair to make that cosmetic look natural, and it takes less than a lot of people think. There's a repair patient online that has been posting his body hair transplant repair for a very long time, piece by piece over the years. He wears concealer. He has relatively sparse coverage, but when he puts that concealer on and shows the images, it looks incredible. So if you're able to add enough hair to improve a general area where you can add some more concealer to kind of create more of a style, so when you walk out into the world, you feel more comfortable when you look at yourself in the mirror, I mean, that's life-changing.
It is.
And,
I'm surprised. It's continuing. It's still progressing.
Dude, let me say this. And again, I've had my life threatened for, being honest about my experience using finasteride all these years. Just telling the truth about how I feel, that it's unfortunate that so many young guys are not going to have the opportunity to treat themselves and maybe nip this in the bud and have decades of a more comfortable life because you're so afraid to take this drug. And I do feel that's unfortunate. But I will say that I have known personally, people who have grown their hair back. I mean, so much hair back that it was ridiculous. Their entire crowns. Guys who caught it early enough with the miniaturization process just reversed. There was one guy that actually was was going to be a patient of a doctor here in Los Angeles. I don't work with this doctor, but I remember him sending me this information. He sent me the before pictures and the after pictures. And he was a little young to have a hair transplant. He put him on finasteride. The guy grew back almost all of his hairline. I mean, he went from like a Norwood 3 to, like what guys on the forum would say a 1.5.
How old was he?
He was maybe 24.
Oh, lucky him.
Yeah. So these cases do happen. And if guys stay on it long enough and if guys feel comfortable using it, if guys don't have adverse side effects, and a lot of the mature guys who start using it, guys your age, guys in their 30s and 40s who kind of understand, the reality of the possibility of adverse side effects, they kind of go into it with a better head, a little bit of a stronger, a stronger head and a little bit more confidence that these side effects won't occur, so they don't for them. You're on it, man. In 2 years, you can end up seeing the final result that you're going to have, and that could be something that you can maintain for a long. Listen, I've been maintaining a lot of hair for over 2 decades on this drug.
Right.
I've definitely gotten worse. There's no doubt. Like I had a great push. I grew back a lot of hair. It held it for many years, 6, 7, 8 years or whatever, and then I started to progress very slowly. In the back, and it's still extremely slow. Like it's kind of been the same point for the last 5 years. So I feel extremely fortunate. Look, I just turned 49 years old, dude. So it's a life. To me, it was life changes. Yeah, go ahead.
I want our members to listen to this. I am not experiencing any side effects, none, nothing major, anyways.
Yeah.
And I take it as I would take a multivitamin. I take it and I don't think about it every day. And I look in the mirror. I'm looking in the mirror right now, and it's just amazing, the density. I'm not saying that I have a full head of hair, of course not, but it's improving. It's progressing Let's put it that way.
Well, listen, I'm glad for you, and I'm glad that you both called in tonight. And before I let you guys go, I have to take a break. Joe, did you want to add something?
Oh, well, I wanted to say something about Joe. He's a part of that small percentage of people that don't get any positive results from it, right? At least that's what Joe says, right, Joe?
You know, he is. I mean, but he was pretty. You know, when you started to take it, Joe, you were significantly bald already. You already had, you know, would you have 2 or 3 transplants already?
Oh,
Yeah. But I don't think, let me just say this, give me 30 seconds. I don't think I would have been a responder anyway, even at 18. Can I explain why?
Yeah.
Because as you know, I was chemically castrated by that great Dr. Norman Artista. He was today 94 years old. God bless him.
that would have an effect.
He'll be going to a special place soon.
You know his birthday? You know the day he was born?
No, it wasn't today. I know it was a few days ago. He became 94.
Wow.
He'll be going to a very special place soon, but I'd rather not elaborate on that. But he chemically castrated me, age of 18. Massive internal estrogen, spironolactone, progesterone injections, and some other kind, I think Diane something. Remember that? Some kind of feminizing drug.
Diane 35?
Yeah, something like that.
Let me tell you, dude, I chose not to have those treatments with him when I went to see him.
Enfamidotide. My DH levels were brought down by approximately 90%.
Right.
He did blood work. Guess what? Yeah, I still fell out.
Yeah. Well, I think what he found out, and what others who tried to go that route found out, was that there was a lot more to it. At the time, they weren't, finasteride wasn't being prescribed, so they found out that there was a very specific action by blocking 5-alpha reductase type 2, and and slowing that or lessening that conversion of testosterone to DHT. All of these, these chemical castration stuff, for whatever reason, did not actually do the job. No matter how low they were able to bring your testosterone level down, and they had to keep it to some degree to a normal level so that you were able to sexually function. Now, Joe, were you rendered impotent when you were on this stuff?
Yes, I was, and I was actually beginning to grow breasts.
Wow. Yeah, and that's actually kind of frightening. You know, I remember going to this guy, and this is the guy that told me that if you were my own son, I would tell you to try a few transplants. If you don't like them, you don't have to come back. And my first response to that bizarre statement was like, where are you going to put them? My hairline had barely begun to recede. There was really no place, especially to place 4 millimeter plugs. He would have destroyed me cosmetically. And I thank God, Joe, that I had the wherewithal to step back and say no. And I had the money at the time. I was already beginning to make a good living. I was like 22. So I could have afforded his insane $25 graft procedure, especially if I was just going to try some. And I just walked away. And that was that day after my visit to Dr. Norman Ortreich, that was the day that I said, this industry is so fucked up.
Yeah, that ain't. See, one more thing I wanted to make. Give me 10 more seconds. I discussed
with Dave.
That's
the thing. I mean, that's what Andrew says. I can't get you off the phone, dude. Go ahead.
It's very important. I told this to Dave today.
Yeah.
My nephew actually hates you and me because of the fact he is now in 06. He blames me and you.
Well, I'll tell your nephew that I apologize. I wish that I was able to help him somehow. But sadly, the truth is we can't help everybody. And
I told Patricia, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, the vast majority of guys out there, who listen to the program, what we're trying to do is provide them with some emotional solace, some emotional support. That's what the program is all about. My whole thing is don't do anything. If you cannot do anything and live your life, shave your head or cut your hair short, move on and go out there and do it. Live your life to its fullest. Yeah. If you can't, here's a place for you.
Well, he said you said Patricia was the cure, which you never said. I said you never said that. All you said was it might help you.
That's right.
You ever said.
Right.
So I read with you. He wants to call you up and yell at you, or email you. I won't give him any of that information.
Well, he is more than welcome to call the show. I'd be more than happy to speak to him. And I wish that we were able to help him. I wish that the drug was able to help him. I wish that he didn't have
Well, I
such
believe-
aggressive genes.
Right. That's like me. I have the same thing. If
Yeah.
the drugs didn't help me, same thing. Got the pictures, 2 and 2 equals 4. All right, let me shut up and say goodnight. Thank you so much.
Good night,
I want to
guys.
say goodnight to my very dear friend Dave, who will be
Good night, Joe.
speaking on again this week. Spencer, could you, the Ball Truth, pay my $1,000 cell phone bill? I'll have Dave and Ball Jerry keep calling me up.
You know what? I don't. Why would you have $1,000 cell phone bill? Don't you have free long distance?
No, I have a certain number of hours, and once I go over that, I have to pay additional fees.
Why don't you guys just get a Skype app for your phone? What are you living in the 19th century? What's going on in the 20th century? What's going on?
What do you mean it's Skype for your phone? What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
You have a smartphone?
No, I
Yes,
have
he
a
does.
regular cell phone.
You don't have an iPhone or a smartphone? Come on.
No, I don't have a regular cell phone. Believe me, you know I'm old school.
Okay. Get yourself a Skype application for your laptop, and you guys can speak for free. You don't have to see each other. You can actually just make a Skype call, and you guys can talk for for 10 hours a day. It won't cost you a dime.
Right, and it doesn't have to be video, Joe. It
Yeah.
could be just audio.
Right.
Well, Dave, you can see what I look like. I trust you.
All right. All right, guys.
Okay.
This is a
All right.
crazy
All
conversation.
right,
I got to
thank
go.
you. God bless you. I know you got to go.
All right.
Take care. Thank you, Dave. Good night, and thank all you
All right,
millions of
Joe.
guys out there for all your concern over my illness.
All right, man.
God bless you, Spencer, and
Thanks,
thank you
Spencer.
for all your concern.
Take it easy, guys. 888-659-3727. I'm going to take a break. We will be taking your calls when we come back. If for some reason we're not getting enough calls tonight, I'm out of here. That's just the way that it is. I see that the lights are lighting up, but they were a second ago, and you guys hung up for some reason. Maybe Joe and Artista bored you. I don't know. But if you have any questions, any concerns about your hair loss, you want to talk about anything that's happening in the world of hair loss or in the hair loss community, if you wanted to tell us what's going on in your life as a hair loss sufferer, if you're considering surgical hair restoration, if you have surgery scheduled, even for tomorrow, and you want to talk about the doctor, if you want to talk about, if you're having any anxiety over it, trepidation, if you are concerned that you may not have made the right decision, I'll be honest with you. I'll let you know. Feel free to call in 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. Stay with us.
The winner of 7 prestigious Golden Forehead Awards.
My family's always arguing. It always starts off innocent and then it gets vicious right away. So I was like, hey, looks like you're losing some hair. At least my wife's not a whore.
Spencer David Kobren.
Welcome back, guys. 888-659-3727. Toll-free number if you want to call and speak to me directly. This is your opportunity. As you know, I do not participate on the message forums. It is something that I've chosen not to do over the years for many reasons. And this broadcast is really for you. Now, I've made a decision. Initially I said that I was only going to do maybe 1 or 2 live broadcasts per month. But what I decided to do is anytime I am in town on a Tuesday, and I'm in my studio, I have access to my studio, I will do a live broadcast. But I'm going to take a page from the Tom Leykis show, from Tom Leykis himself, who has basically converted his broadcast to an online broadcast only. And, while he has one of the most listened to broadcasts on the internet at this point, if he doesn't get calls, because it is a call-in show and he lets his listeners know, because, you have to realize that the vast majority of people who listen to radio, who listen to talk radio, and who now listening online, never pick up that phone. So if he doesn't get the calls, he just closes up shop for the day and goes drinking or gets something to eat. I'm going to do the same thing. That's what I've decided. So I do this live broadcast for you. That's it. Honestly, I'd prefer interview the experts in the field, talk to patients, do my thing, record it at my leisure, and then put that stuff out for public consumption. But I do this broadcast so you guys have the opportunity to talk about your issues, to learn from each other, to share your stories with us and with all of our listeners. And the truth is, the Bald Truth is one of the most watched online internet broadcasts in the world as well. Now, Lycus does an audio show. But our on-demand stuff and our live broadcast is one of the most watched shows, at least weekly shows, that's out there. You know what people do? They watch. They want to be entertained. They want to be informed, but they don't necessarily want to participate. We're going to change that. If you don't participate, we're not going to do the live show. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
I personally think that you should still do the show while you're drinking. When I come down and we can go out to the bars, and when we get really drunk, we can talk to people about their hair.
Well, I don't mind doing that. Only if you're around. You're gonna have to turn down your computer.
Let's see. Well, my computer's not on. I'm on a headphone.
Oh,
Hang on a second.
That could be it.
Is that better?
That's good.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Joe, thanks for calling, man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Joe Tillman, everybody. Joe Tillman, hair transplant mentor, the original hair transplant mentor, the first guy that actually took the time to document his hair transplant journey online. And you know what? That changed the way people do stuff online now in this world, in the hair world. Everyone now is trying to be Joe Tillman or Joe Tronic. So I got to give you credit, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I look at results that people are posting and even clinics, when they're posting the results that patients send into them, which, it's always great when patients send in the results, but when the clinic turns around and posts them and the photos are taken with like an iPhone 3G with Vaseline on the lens, and it looks like it's there's a heavy fog that has rolled in from the water. It's like, when I was taking my photos 12 years ago, when I first started this, it was with a little Fuji FinePix 2.1 megapixel point and shoot camera, and they were crystal clear. Sure. And I'm still like just absolutely befuddled and amazed how some of these photos can come out to be so fuzzy.
Well, I've got to tell you that the most successful clinics, the most successful physicians, the guys who are out there on Bald Truth Talk and on the IHRS, and the guys that are, or at least the IHRS members who really are putting themselves out there on the forum and elsewhere, they are doing a lot better. There's no doubt. The images are really getting a lot better. And frankly, I think they took the lead, your lead, what you did for Hassan and Wong by, basically providing images at, specific angles, using the same lighting and a very, simple light blue background that actually made everything kind of jump off the page. And that was a big one. And you see a lot of guys who are basically, and I'm glad they're kind of using that lead. They're copying your style to present their images because they know how effective that is.
And I think that's awesome. I agree. We were the first to have, the light blue background as a standard background for the photos. But I'm seeing more clinics. It's been a long fight, but I'm seeing more clinics finally not trying to enhance the result with the flash photography and the wet befores and the dry afters, and all the tricks, right? And
look, it's
nice to see that.
I got an application to the IHRS from a group who's overseas, and initially the images looked as though they were somehow filtered. Now, I come to find out that that happened during the uploading process. For whatever it is, I made it clear. I said, listen, I can't even take a look at these images. Do you have the raw files so that we can take a closer look? Initially, not that this doctor was offended, but they tried to kind of explain what happened, and they wanted to make sure that they knew they weren't trying to alter the images. I wasn't accusing them of anything. I just said they look altered. I can't use these images to assess the situation. They ended up sending me the raw files. I have to tell you, I was very impressed with the work. And now we're going through the process of, speaking to their patients and stuff like that. But the thing is, those images may be images that they would accidentally post online. that could
Yeah.
create a false impression of what they're actually doing. And but there are doctors out there that do that purposely. They want to create that false impression so that the work actually looks better than it is.
Of course. I mean, they're the old tricks, and then there's the new ones that can claim, well, it's the patient submitted photos, and yeah, sure, they're not crystal clear like we would take in our clinic, but it is what it is, and it's still the result, and in some cases it's valid, and in other cases it's not.
Well, listen, all I can tell you is this, and I made a post on Facebook about this. Dr. Mark Dower presented a really nice case on Bald Truth Talk, and I think it's important. It was important to kind of let people in the industry know that this is what consumers expect. They want to see the whole deal. They want to see everything in HD, in good lighting. They want to have the potential to speak with the patient, or at least have the patient share their experience, and then they want follow-up. So they want things start to finish. You actually presented, for a while you were doing Hair Transplant Fridays, or Hassan and Wong Hair Transplant Fridays. What was it called? Is that it?
It was H&W
Video
High
Friday.
Definition Video Fridays.
Right,
Yeah.
and which was an incredible idea. And, frankly, I wish that everyone would do that, because I have to say, at least judging from the caliber of consumer that's starting to come through our resources now, I mean, a lot of these guys don't want to settle for less. And why would I blame them? At the very least, obviously, for me, I would want to meet patients. I would want to speak to the staff. I have an entire list of things that I would have to go through even before I considered going with this particular clinic. However, at the very least, you want to be able to see crystal clear images and video. And it's not so hard to do. And you've proven that over the years.
It's really not, and what was interesting is how we were able to pull off being able to do that every Friday. And these weren't results that were built up that we just had in the repository waiting to be released. These were, we were scrambling every week. It was like a weekly sitcom. We're scrambling every week to come up with something. And
when doctors tell me that they can't, their patients won't sit there and do it for them, that's not true. I mean, it may take a little work, but you will if you're doing enough surgeries, you have enough patients. Even if you have to offer a patient an incentive to say, you know what, if you do this for us, we'll do something for you. It's going to help other patients.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely worthwhile, and it's not just worthwhile for the clinic to do it for themselves, but it helps to elevate the education level, the awareness level for the average consumer of what a real, a quality hair transplant should look like. And when you go through the motions of, it's not just seeing the patient sitting there turning his head left or right. It's taking a comb, and when you're combing through it, you're actually bringing the camera up nice and slow so it has time to focus and just lock in on those hairs as they actually exit the scalp. You can see.
Joe, I think we lost you, man.
In the natural bird.
Joe, okay. we just lost you for 1 second. Listen, I'm going to keep you potted up because I want to talk more about this, but we have some calls. I want to take them. I don't know if maybe someone has a question for you, so let's see who this is. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hi. What can I do for you?
Hey, it's Steve from Toronto.
Hey, Steve from Toronto. What's happening?
Not much. Last time I called, Joe was on the air as well. So it's actually good to have him here as well.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Hey.
So what's happening with you, man?
Couple things. I don't know if you recall. Last time I called, I was talking about finasteride and taking the blood test and some of the results being off the charts. And you guys had suggested, or one of you had suggested, and I think the other concurred, that the best thing to do was redo the blood test. So I took the advice and I redid it, and lo and behold, the levels did drop significantly on that second blood test. So it was some good advice.
There you go.
The levels are still pretty high though, but I figured I'd give it some more time.
Well, what levels are you talking about? What exactly is high? I kind of forgot this call.
DHT, dihydrotestosterone levels were pretty high, like well above normal,
Right.
and they're still above. They dropped quite significantly on the redo, but they were still above normal.
Right. Now, let me ask you, now you're currently using finasteride?
Yeah, the generic.
Okay. Also, I mean, what about your liver enzymes? I'm just curious. Have you had your liver enzymes checked during these blood tests?
No, I never even thought about that.
Okay, I think it's important that you do. And again, first of all, I am not a physician. You guys need to understand that. But if anytime you decide to get any type of blood work, especially when you're taking any medication, it's my advice, and I think the advice of a lot of physicians, to include some blood work where they check your liver enzymes. You never know if there's some sort of an issue. We don't know. I mean, it's pretty unusual for your DHT levels to initially be off the chart, but then be extremely high to a level where, if you're taking finasteride, it is supposed to, if it's effective, if it's the actual drug and you're not taking some sort of a dummy pill, it definitely should suppress your DHT to a significant degree.
Yeah. And I redid that test within, I think, a few weeks of the original result, and it's probably been almost a year. So I'm going to redo it again just to see where I'm at.
Well, I think the question is, how's your hair now?
I'm using that. I'm using minoxidil. I do a little bit of derma rolling as well, and I got the Nizoral in there once a week. But it's okay, but I still feel like I'm losing it, and it just might be my genetic
disposition.
Disposition.
How old are you again?
I don't know. I'm 37.
Okay. And what degree of hair loss do you have right now? Are you familiar with?
I've had two strip procedures already. Okay. And at the point where
are you the guy's wife left him?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. Actually,
okay.
A couple interesting. I want to talk about the good and bad about my hair transplant.
All right.
But yeah, so I had two surgeries, one at 34, and at that point I was assessed as a Norwood 5A. And that procedure I jumped into too quickly, and I still got a respectable result, but I didn't do my due diligence. And the second time around, I went to Dr. Rahal, and it really made a significant difference. However, I still feel like the sides are dropping and they're still thinning, and a bit of a concern of mine still.
All right. Now, have you spoken to Dr. Rahal about this?
Last time I went to see him was probably at the 12-month mark, and at that point he thought it was still strong.
Okay.
Like he said, there's essentially we don't have anything to talk about at this point. You're good. Just give it some time, and then we'll revisit it in a year, and we'll see where you're at, and then we'll talk further,
Well, Joe is in the trenches, man. He sees patients every single day, and he obviously counsels patients, and he helps them through the consultation process. I think he's someone, I think it's a great opportunity to speak to him about this. Joe, what do you think about his situation?
Well, my first question is, you're a 5A, and you've been on. How long have you been on Propecia?
We're just about at the 2-year mark.
Okay, and that's been consistent use, right?
Yes, daily.
Okay, now the key question if I don't ask this of everyone I'm talking to about finasteride, it's something that I've forgotten. But in this case, it's mandatory. Are you taking the generic, or are you taking name brand?
I'm taking the generic. I know you
are taking the generic. Yeah. Well, they're valid, and I think that if your DHT levels are still registering as high, and you're taking the finasteride generic version, maybe the inconsistencies I've written about that I've seen over the past, I think it's probably 5 years now, give or take. It's continuing, and it's actually getting worse. We're noticing in our clinic that more and more people are still saying my finasteride's not working, or my Propecia stopped working, and almost every one of them is because they switched to the generic, and almost every one of them, 6 months later or what have you, after they've switched back to name brand, be it Proscar or Propecia, they've all reported that the loss either stopped or it turned around and actually improved again back to the pre quote unquote generic levels. Right?
It's funny. There's no doubt in my mind. I've been talking about this for years. I joke around saying that I'm a brand whore, but the truth is I would never switch I believe in the brand, and there have been so many people over the years that have said that, they started with, Finpecia or other Indian brand finasteride, and then became generic here in the U.S., and they were getting generic finasteride. And for some people, it seems to be working, and for others, if they make that switch because they want to save a couple of bucks, I would say 8 out of 10 guys will report, and maybe 7 out of 10. I don't have the exact stats, but the vast majority of guys who make that switch report back to us saying that they lost ground. Why is that? I mean, is there some, minute molecular, differential that we don't know about?
Here's something interesting, Spencer, that I learned. I don't recall if I told you about this, but I had a pharmacist come in about 2 years ago for a consultation, and we were talking about this exact issue, and I brought up the generic versus name brand, and he said that I'm spot on. And the reason he said that when generics are cleared by the FDA, or in Canada the Canadian equivalent, he said that I actually have to have every patent for that medication copied, or the molecules that are patented copied. He said there's I'm not sure 100% of what the medication is. I think it's Lipitor, which is probably the most prescribed medication in history.
Right.
Has and these are rough numbers from memory, but it has something like 52 patents.
Well, that and oral contraceptives, but yeah.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
but it has like 52 patents, and to be able to qualify as a generic, you only have to meet 13 of those 52 patents to be able to qualify as a generic for that specific medication.
Right.
So that alone tells you that it is not the same thing, and that there has to be some other components that aren't being included that do make a difference.
And also, if they don't have to meet all of these specific patents, different companies will meet different criteria as long as they meet that number, that 13 number. So, say you're getting Xanax and you're getting generic Xanax from one company, and then you switch to another company, there's a possibility you're going to have a different effect. And, when you're dealing with a benzodiazepine, you're going to feel it, you're going to feel a little relaxed, or you're going to get a high, whatever it is, with any of the products that you use. When it comes to something like this, you really don't know, because in most cases, you're not having any physical manifestations, except, you're seeing that the hair loss is, there's hair loss cessation, or there's hair growth, if it's working. Otherwise, you don't really feel anything else.
Yeah, there's no immediate return on taking it. There's no immediate effects that you can gauge, right? And by the time you can see something, it's too late. You've lost ground. And so, I'm such a huge believer in staying away from the generics. You're only saving a few bucks, literally. I mean, it's when you're doing ProScar quartered into 4 pieces,
Right.
It's so cheap that way to begin with. I mean, I don't understand the need to save $5, but regardless, stick with the name brand. I mean, Steve, by all means, get a hold of Dr. Rahal and ask him to get a new prescription for you, or your local doctor. You said you're in Toronto?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, if you can't get Dr. Rahal to do it, then or if you have a regular family doctor that can do it for you, then by all means, whichever is the easiest and quickest route, do take advantage of that.
That's who's doing it right now, is just my regular family physician. And I had no idea that, the variants could be so great on those, and the number of patents that have to be met. The requirements seem pretty low when you're talking 13 of 52. And the funny thing is, like, and this isn't funny, but I didn't really feel any physical impact other than, like this. They said there's the sexual side effects with this drug, and I was sort of anticipating that. And I sort of weaned myself onto the drug, but I got to tell you, I've had absolutely the opposite effect, and it started to concern me, because I was like, shouldn't I be experiencing, something different than I am? But instead, I was like, I was always ready to go. Like, it had the opposite effect, and it kind of concerned me in that respect. I was like, I'm expecting this to have sexual side effects, not ones that actually, make me more excited.
Well, I think that's an interesting note, but I don't want you to think that just because you had the the opposite effect sexually, that that there's something wrong with that with the generic. I am not a fan of generics when it comes to finasteride, but I have heard guys who have called the program, contacted me over the years. It actually happened to Joe from Staten Island, and at one point when I first started using it, it happened to me on the name brand. I definitely felt more amorous, when I first started using the drug, and the doctor initially there was a doctor in New York who was trying to talk me out of using it because he wanted me to buy his concoction of bullshit, in my view, and he basically said that I was going to be. I was going to become a woman. I was going to have feminizing effects. I was going to grow breasts. This is before it was approved by the FDA for hair loss. Anyway, when I first got on the drug, I definitely felt like I wanted to go. It was like supercharged. That kind of settled down to a normal level. So I think that could even happen in some people with the name brand. So.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. My advice, and I think my advice is to take Joe's advice, to talk to your doctor about getting a prescription. If you want to save some money, get a prescription for ProScar. And again, I'm not a physician, neither is Joe, so talk to your doctor about it, and just cut it in quarters.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you got to lose at this
point?
And
one thing to understand, Steve, is I'm not 100% sure in Canada, but I'm pretty sure that even if your doctor does say does write a prescription for finasteride, 5 milligram finasteride, which by definition is the generic when you go to the pharmacy.
That's what I'm taking.
You can. I'm sorry.
That's exactly what I'm taking right now.
Yeah. Okay. So you can stipulate to your pharmacist. I don't even think. Now that I think about it, you might not even have to talk to your doctor about it. You can just go to your pharmacist and say, "I want the name brand," and they may try to talk you out of it, say, well, this just saves you money and whatever. They have to get it for you. So if they don't have it in stock, again, I could be wrong in this, but I believe that they have to order it for you if they don't have it in stock.
Well, what they'll normally do is they'll say that, if people are using their insurance to cover it, that insurance doesn't cover it, the name brand. But, most people, I mean, at least I do, I pay cash for my ProScar. So that never enters into the equation. So, yeah, I mean, you can give it a shot. You can call them. You don't even have to go down there. Say, listen, I've been using the generic. I was advised to use the brand name. Do you have brand name in stock? If not, can you order it for me? And they'll tell you yes or no right there on the phone.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. I'll take that advice. I think that's good. I'll definitely give it a shot and keep up to date with my levels.
You said you had something else you wanted to add before we go. So tell me.
Yeah,
what else?
I just kind of wanted to talk and just kind of share my experience on the whole, the good and the bad about the hair transplant, taking that route for me.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a few minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like when the situation happened with my ex, I kind of felt like very unattracted. I had to go back out in the market, and I felt really bad about myself. So I jumped into it, and I got my procedures, and I can tell you, like, it changed my life with women. Like, I had more than I can handle.
Wow.
It was like, and I like, maybe it was the hair, maybe it wasn't, but like, it was just, even right now, like, it's just, I feel like my options are infinite right now, and maybe it's confidence, or maybe it's actually how I look.
It's probably a combination of both.
Yeah. Well, it's really made a difference in that respect. Interesting thing, and I don't know if this has anything to do with the hair or not, but the ex has come back, and she wants to reconcile now.
Wow.
And yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah, dude. If I remember correctly, didn't she fool around with like your friend or something? Was that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. You got the story right. Yeah, it's right on. And
dude, let me tell you something. And I learned this a long time ago with people in general, but especially women. And you do what you need to do for your life. But my advice as a guy who's been through a lot in my life with people, once a snake, always a snake. That's just the way that it is. If she's going to,
you know what?
Go ahead.
Spencer's 100% right. But let me tell you a quick story about my history. Okay, the whole reason why I'm even here today, the whole reason why I'm in this industry, the whole reason why I'm Joe Tronic is because of my divorce before I had, my work with Dr. Wong. And I had already had my 2 bad procedures, and I don't know how I did it, but I pulled this woman to be my wife for a couple of years, but then we wound up getting divorced. And it's the exact same reason that you went ahead and had your first ones that I decided I need to get repaired. I'm back on the market, right? And I'm walking around sporting this, this ridiculous looking pluggy hairline.
Yeah, man, that was awful.
32 years old at the time.
Did you hear that? He goes, yeah, man, that was awful. No offense.
It was awful. And
let's call spade
let me tell you,
right?
Yeah.
What you're experiencing now, after you had this reconstruction of yourself, so to speak, is exactly what I went through. And let me tell you, you just touched something for me where you said now she wants to reconcile. I had the same issue.
No way.
She came back wanting to reconcile like 8 months after I had my first repair procedure with Dr. Wong.
Yeah.
Right? So when I say run, I mean create a Steve-shaped hole in the wall and get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Do not stop. Do not collect. No, just get the hell away from her because there's so much more out there for you. I can't stress this enough.
No, and I met some great women, like fantastic women. But I mean,
awesome.
We share 3 kids together, man. Like we have triplets.
Yeah.
And
well, that's heavy. That's heavy.
And they're young kids, and it's like she seems pretty sincere and all that. And it's just like I don't know if I could go there, but I'm getting a lot of pressure even from my family, man. They're just pushing me to get back with her.
Well, here's the thing: you don't have to marry her again.
True.
I mean,
right.
Honestly, if you want to give it a shot, it's your life. It's I would say, the 3 kids absolutely changes the equation. But I would still say, unless your kids are being really affected by it, unless you're doing this for your children, that's one thing. But if you're just doing it because you want to keep the family together and your kids are okay, I would still say, don't do it. Stay in your kid's life, be friends with this woman. Just it's only going to turn out bad. But if you do it, don't marry her again. That's my advice.
I gotta add something to that. I agree 100% with what he's saying, but I can't stress it enough. I mean, once you're back, if you do get back with her, then things go right back to the way they were.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. I mean, that's just the way it happens.
The truth is, all the little things that screwed her up, or when she was looking at you saying, you know what, I got to go screw somebody else. They're going to come back. Right now she's like, well, you know what, maybe you're looking better, maybe you're acting differently.
Pretty good. His confidence is up.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like she sees like when we're around with the kids together, she sees my phone going off, and she's like, okay, this girl, and she's getting jealous,
Yeah, and that's all it is. That's what it is, because all of a sudden now you are, you're wanted by somebody else. You are desirable. You have something to offer. Your stock went through the roof. Before, she's just like, you know what? I've been with this schnook for so long. I want to go F somebody else. And she ended up screwing your friend.
Yeah. And ultimately that didn't work out. And then, I mean, overall, I don't want to toot my own horn, but a pretty decent catch. I held a good job. I make some good money. I look good. I'm in shape. I'm a good father.
So you know what you do? You go get yourself a younger woman, someone in, how old are you, 36?
37.
All right, get yourself somebody, who's,
25.
Yeah, 25, 26 years old, and live your life. How old is this woman?
She's 36.
She's okay. So you guys are the same age. So when you're 60, she's going to be 60. How's that going to work out?
I don't know, man. Yeah.
Listen. That sounds. Listen, I just happen to be with a younger woman. If I would have met somebody my age at the time, who I felt was my soulmate, I probably would have stayed with her, and I would be with a 49-year-old woman right now.
Right on.
But that's not the case. And I have to tell you, there's definitely some perks with being with someone who's, at least slightly younger, a little bit more shelf life. You're just coming into your own now.
For sure.
So you could have a lot of enjoyment in your life, dude. Listen, take care of your kids. Do whatever's best you think is best for your children. But if you're just doing it because it's easy and because you miss her because of what you thought you had, and now that you're seeing she's paying more attention to you because you are now becoming the man, other women are going to feel the same way about you.
Yeah. No, the kids are the real kicker in this situation, and she's definitely turned up her game as an individual and as a mother.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, how long? Who knows, right? And the thing is, we're not even legally divorced. We're just separated. We haven't been able to pull the trigger on that yet.
Oh man, so you are still married.
Oh yeah.
So the thing is, I've had a girl that I've been pretty good with, and it's been pretty amazing, and she's fantastic to me. But this girl wants to have a kid, and that's something I don't think I can do anymore.
Once you get a vasectomy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't have. And then just don't tell her, eh?
Yeah, just get. Well, listen, I'm not going to tell you that, but you do whatever you want to do, but get a vasectomy, and that means that you're unable to have children anymore.
Yeah. No, so I mean that's been the positive side of things. It's really boosted my confidence. I think ultimately, like I wanted my ex to come back to me, sort of a little.
Yeah.
I don't know, retribution.
Absolutely.
If you will. I don't know.
Well, of course.
And now it's your turn, dude. Do whatever you need to do to make yourself happy. Take care of your children. And honestly, if it were me, I know that it's going to be a mistake. I know that in time you will regret this, but you do what you have to do.
Yeah. Now, that's all the positive stuff. Now, the negative stuff with this is that I worry about future loss every single day, and sometimes I regret my decisions. Because I feel like, what happens if I slip to a 6 or even a 7? What am I going to do then? I've already had 2 strip procedures, and then I'm starting to think, geez, am I going to go the body hair route? I'm kind of worried about the options, and I'm just like, I just need to buy time. They'll figure it out. I just need to buy some time.
You got a guy on the line who is exhausted those options. I mean, the guy, he's like full-blown Norwood 6. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, I mean, you had around average density donor, and the caliber of hair was on the finer side.
Yeah, exactly. And my only saving grace was I had unusual laxity. It wasn't high laxity. It's just my laxity would return with each subsequent procedure that I had. And I'll never forget, when I first saw Mike Furco in the Seattle office when I went to have my first consultation, he rated my donor hair or my donor zone as a 3 because I had the 2 wide donor scars, and then my hair was kind of on the finer side, and my density was so. But he didn't recognize the fact that my laxity would return, and so that's what allowed me to get so much work from Strip and from Dr. Wong. But it's I mean, if you're willing to kick the bucket a few more times, I mean, as long as you are with a doctor that is strategic with the plan, with the future procedures, which I know Dr. Rahal, if you decide to stick with him, is that kind of doctor.
Yeah. Then
there's no reason why, as long as you have the financial means to keep doing this, that you can't keep addressing this in a wise fashion so that you don't have this appearance that you might be fearing right now. I mean, I've done it, and while I'm not saying that you'd be able to have the type of, multiple procedures that I've had, there are options, especially like with Dr. Rahal, because he's not only doing the FUT, but he's also doing FUE, where you can get additional grafts above and beyond, from the donor zone once you're tapped out with Strip.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a unique case. I mean, a lot of times this just most patients, from what I see, what I read, and what I hear, just can't get that quantity. And I think I'm probably more on the average patient side.
Well, you can't get the quantity if you've been through the bad procedures like I've been through. The average patient, if you've got average density, average laxity, and you go to a good doctor, you've got multiple thousands of grafts available that, again, strategically placed, can make all the world of difference for you. I mean, 8,000 grafts. I don't know what your case would be like, but that's a fairly common number over 2 or 3 procedures with quality clinics on average patients.
Yeah. Oh, I've had about 6,500 transplanted, but the first procedure was not with the right person, so I think that impacted the overall plan, and
it can, yeah.
Well, I think the only way anyone could really tell is to take a look at what you have in a donor bank and to see the quality of hair, the contrast between your hair and your skin. If you have light hair and dark, if you have light skin and dark hair, and if the caliber is not great, obviously you're going to need more hair to be moved to get the coverage. If you have lighter hair with darker skin, or if you just have lighter hair and lighter skin, you're going to have a possibility of having a more denser looking result. You can move less hair and get a better aesthetic, appearance. It really just depends on your hair characteristics. You may be a better candidate than you realize.
I'm just really scared about those size dropping and not being able to do anything about it. I really love, having this hair now, and it's really made a big difference in my life, except now I do worry about it, and at times I kind of wish maybe I hadn't gone this route. Maybe I just did some FUE, and I would have been, somewhat have the appearance of, a somewhat scarless procedure, let's say, and then, had the option of SMP. Now I'm kind of worried about that future, but yeah, I'm definitely looking at the docs for advice. Actually, I have contacted the Joe, your Toronto rep, so I'm looking to have a consult. with him.
Okay, yeah, James.
James, yeah, I've been in touch with him. I just haven't been able to coordinate a time to meet with him. Time he was meeting patients, I was just finishing up a tax season here, so I just couldn't get out. Yeah. But,
well, listen, man, we're gonna have to close up shop. Joe, what did you want to say?
I just wanted to express to Steve that you need to live in the here and now with your hair. In other words, don't spend your time worrying about the future. Okay, you're doing everything right. Get on the name brand and see how that works out for you. But in the meantime, aside from that, what you can do for yourself to make sure that you're giving your hair the best fighting chance possible is to stick with the regimen, but also to eat right, exercise, maybe add some MSM. The mineral that everyone's been taking to strengthen their hair. It increases the strength, the rate of growth. It makes it. You have to get haircuts twice as often.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I take that. I've added biotin to my routine, and I'm just trying to be as healthy as possible by avoiding things that I know aren't good for me and taking in a lot more of the things that I know are good for me. I'm working out the whole 9 yards, and my hair is better than it's ever been. And I'm a big believer in diet and nutrition having an impact on the quality of the hair. And if you're taking foods and eating foods that can also help with inflammation issues that you may not be aware of in your body, that too can help stave off even a little bit of hair loss. So just do the right thing for yourself physically and nutrition-wise, and get on the name brand and let us know what's going on. But I think this might be the answer for you.
Yeah, listen, Steve, I think it's all good advice, and getting on the name brand could really be life-changing. You're not having great results at this point. You feel that you're continuing to progress. Your DHT levels are, higher than they should be when you're taking finasteride, according to you and to your physician. So, I don't think it's going to, I think it's good advice. I don't think you're going to do yourself any harm, and I think it's very possible that you can see some improvement. So talk to your doctor about that.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And again, I want to make sure that everyone knows that, we are not giving any medical advice on this program.
No.
Joe Tillman and myself, we are not physicians. We're just basically speaking from experience. Steve, listen, man, good luck. Thanks for the call.
Good luck, Steve.
All right.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Take it easy.
Bye. All right.
All right. 888-659-3727. Let me see. I'm not sure if you're on line 1 or line 2, Joe, so I don't want to hang up on this guy.
That's a good call with Steve. I really hope he's able to get back to us about what's going on once he switches to name brand.
Yeah, I do too. He's called several times. You know, it's funny. Like once people start to kind of remind me and piece together their story a little bit, I remember the calls and I remember what he went through, and I remember that he went through a very difficult time with his wife, who left him for his friend who's screwing around with his buddy, which is absolutely devastating. But listen, guys. Listen, guys. I appreciate the calls. I know we have calls on hold, and thank you so much for participating tonight. Again, this is a call-in show, so you guys call in. It makes it interesting for me. It makes it interesting for our listeners. If you don't call in, then maybe I'll just do some recorded stuff with Joe. Put that out for public consumption. That's it. No pressure. You guys
we still need to do the bar. I'm telling you.
We can do that. I'll bring a little. I'll bring a little digital recorder. We'll make it happen. I could stream it directly to GFQ. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Listen, guys, thanks so much. Joe Tillman, thank you very much for calling in. Always a pleasure. And you can check out Joe on Bald Truth Talk, of course, if you want to speak to him directly. And you can go to his website, which is hairtransplantmentor.com. Joe, thanks a lot, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Spencer.
All right, take it easy. Good night. 888. I'm not giving out the phone number. And Joe, I hope I gave out the right. Joe, you still there? Okay. I hope I gave out his right website. I think it is hairtransplantmentor.com. You guys, Joe, if that's the wrong website, just put the URL in the chat. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Guys, listen, I got to go. Let me go out the websites. AmericanHairLoss.org. Check out the American Hair Loss Association. If you're considering surgical hair restoration, please check out the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. We really have done our best to create a safe place, a group of physicians who are really the best of the best, in our opinion, in the field. So check them out. Again, it's a good starting place. We do not necessarily recommend having hair transplant surgery. In my view, surgery is always a last resort. But if you're the right candidate and you find the right physician and the right team, it can be life-changing. So, if you're considering surgery, check out ihrs.org. Also, if you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers, and if you want to learn more about the hair transplant procedure and other types of things that are happening in the world of hair loss, and just speak to other people about your issues, go to the message forum, which is baldtruthtalk.com. Remember, please take everything that you read from anonymous users on any message forum, and that includes ours, and we keep ours semi-private. Take it with a grain of salt. Understand and know your sources. If it's coming from an anonymous user, you never know where that information is coming from. So do your research. It's great to interact with other hair loss sufferers. It's great to garner as much information as you can from our message forum, but then continue to do your research before you make any decisions about any products or services, especially the gray market products that are being promoted by many users on all the message forums. And also, even before you have hair transplant surgery, it's great that doctors are starting to present more images and more video, but you really need to speak to the physician if possible, speak to their patients if possible, see if you can meet some patients before you make that decision to undergo surgery. I want to thank you guys for hanging out. I think we'll be live next week. Maybe I'll have it posted in the message forum. Or I guess I should start tweeting things. Everyone's asking me why I don't tweet. So I'll let you guys know if we are live next week. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.